shrouded in mystery with ancient teachings and hidden secrecy. There we find the shaman. They battle the sage from within, questing to find strength and truth, lost within the dark, peace and harmony that has been set or pulled apart. Oh, how they called us mad as hell. But as the veil thins, even they find themselves becoming shaman now. Not so very mad now, are we? For you, yourselves, now, are coming to see. We all have shamanic gateways. We all are part of how it is meant to be, and the learning of setting ourselves free. For shamanic gateways is not just a phase. However, it is learning about how to walk through this world's maze. Because from time to time, day by day, each and every one of us will catch a glimpse of different parts of what we call the shamanic gateways. Hey everyone, this is Shamanic Gateways, and I am Lady Stars and Fire. I'm so thankful that you chose to hang out with me this evening and see what this show is going to be all about. So this show is going to be a little bit more of an intro about the show in general, so I can give you a little bit of an idea as to what all it is we're going to be looking at here. Now, personally, I'm very open with the fact that I am studying to be a shaman. However, I am not done with all of my studies. I have not finished all levels, so to speak. But I have learned that we all have somewhat of shaman in us. We all carry shamanic characteristics. And shamanism doesn't go with any one spiritual belief. However, it is the most ancient on the planet. You see, I've learned, much like many of us, we all have some at least, shamanic characteristics within us. As we start to awaken, as we start to connect more with the earth and with wholeness, we meditate. Some of us even journey on accident and don't realize that that is actually what we are doing. Some of us find we are healing with spirit. This is also another shamanic trait. There is so very much of shamanism that has been passed down, twisted and turned, shrouded in mystery, and been mixed up with other forms of spirituality, more or less. Now, see, on this show, I have no desire to go through and preach more or less about how shamanism is the only way to go. That's not what this show is going to be about, not at all. I want this show to go on more or less about how we all have somewhat of shamanic gateways within us, how we all connect. We may not do it all the same, but the fact is, we are simply trying to find what it is that is our calling, our purpose, our reason, while it is that we are here on earth. Our connection with everything. All of this does have to do with shamanism, but shamanism is going to be like an underlining part of the show. Yes, it will always be popping up. Different things that I have learned that I think that might be worth sharing with you. Or maybe some guests in the future that may also be, helpful for other people to hear from. These are all things that I want to bring to the show. Our way of life with our spiritual connection. Because for as long as you can tell anything about anything, when you go back and you read stories about shamanism, you always have the medicine man and the witch also being part of their story. And while they are all definitely different, they all do also definitely intertwine. The mystic versus the shaman. Because mystics are said to be able to walk between the realms. But the difference between the mystic and the shaman is the mystic is always walking between the realms. The mystic always has one foot in this realm and one foot in the other realm. But the key here is the mystic can only stay in both realms for the most part at a certain strength, a certain level of both realms at the same time. And this is because the mystic would be burnt out. Period. The mystic would completely be burnt out if it was in full swing, completely full swing of both realms at the same time. And the true, deep truth is we still are human beings and we have human bodies. No matter how great it is you are with your gifts, no matter how great it is with the magic that you possess within you, you can only be so much at one time and still hold balance within your life. The mystic is split down the middle, so to speak. Just like I said before, one foot in this world, one foot in the other. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you know what you're doing and you've learned how to be capable and handle yourself in both worlds at both times, there is no problem with that. Actually, there are very, very many mystics who do live in both worlds at the same time, even if they keep it to themselves. However, being in both worlds at the same time means balancing both worlds at the same time. So typically, a mystic is not going to go full into a merge, so to speak. This would often upset their balance, and is exactly what I'm talking about being burned out. Because a shaman will learn to merge with the spirit itself. Fully step into spirit, allow spirit to take over the body and do the medicine that needs to be done. And in a form, they become one for a small temporary amount of time. And that's because this is exhausting. This is why shamans are known to step into the world and then step back out. They cannot remain there. They can't keep a balance if they were being a mystic. If they were staying in the middle, they could not consume all that they need to when it comes time to do shamanic work. However, a mystic can completely understand what the shaman is talking about, for they see the other world. They understand the other world. This is all part of what I'm trying to get through. In different ways, we all have shamanic characteristics. We all have shamanic gateways. Now, depending on how open we are, how awakened we've become, how much we've worked on our wholeness, and we actually are working with spirit in any form, depends just on how strongly those shamanic traits may be showing up. However, that does not mean that your true path is to be a shaman, or that you would even want to. But when we start to realize we all carry, we all possess a spark of that magic that comes with the shaman, even if we didn't choose to work all the way through and become a full, strong shaman, we all have characteristics. It's simply who and what it is we are as humans. There are so many different levels of spiritual energy that individually some of us possess. Our psychic abilities, so to speak. Because shamanism is not only about the journey, about the merge, about soul loss, about healing in such ways. It is about connection with spirit and the world around you, the living world that is around you, the very hidden veil of activity that is right in front of our eyes every single day. Now, in some ways, this is exactly where the clairvoyant, the medium, comes in. The witch and also the medicine man. Like I said, we all always will be intertwining. We have our own ways of how it is we do our magic. How it is that we see and we know what it is we see and we know when others next to us don't. And some of us work more with the earth in general. Some of us love our stones and our crystals, and we work with them in different ways for healing and other things, such as spells. We use herbs in much the same way. Sometimes it's within different spells or pouches, medicine bags that we are making, and sometimes it's for healing reasons, such as teas and medicine. And then sometimes it's all about how is it we connect with spirit. Are we dealing with spirit itself? Are we dealing with an essence of spirit? Or Is it spirit essence? Such as, are we dealing with a ghost, a spiritual guide, an essence of a being of some form, or is it earthly essence in general? Are we speaking to the trees? Are we learning from nature? All of this is involved in shamanic life. Now, again, on this show, I'm not going to be preaching to you to try to get you to think about becoming a shaman. No, that is not what my path is about, nor is it what this show will be about. But to simply provide additional ideas, different aspects that you may find that hit home for you. Maybe exactly what it is that you're looking for to get you over the hump right now. It's all about our connection, our wholeness, our oneness, and how is it we can help each other out. So when we realize from time to time, maybe, just maybe, we're starting to see parts of shamanic gateways that are helpful to us, doesn't mean we have to become a shaman, but it may be helpful to us at the moment, and it may be something that we can remember in our future. Because we all have moments where we simply step into the other world, where we question ourselves, our thinking, our actions, and even our behaviors. And this, quite honestly, is the sage within versus ego. You see, the shaman, for the most part, its biggest deal is getting to the root of the situation, finding and accepting truth, as well as healing and wholeness. The shaman becomes involved in all, and this is why sometimes they call the shaman the mad one. Oh, and I get it today. I get the "you're plumb crazy" from so many people, and that's okay because I don't care what they think. This part is my path. That's not theirs. However, we all have our moments. Come on now. We all have our moments where we have seen the spirit out of the corner of our eye, or the shadow out of the corner of our eye, speaking to us. We can hear it. We see its movement. We hear our name being called. Yet, when we turn, there is nothing there. And this is exactly part of what I'm talking about when I say our inner sage versus our ego. Are we comfortable enough with realizing, yes, there was something there? Can we become open-minded enough to actually find out eventually if we get to a point where we can see that, whatever it was, in the shadow, out of the corner of our eye, what it is that we heard possibly calling our name from down the hallway? It's all about becoming calm enough, open-minded enough to where it is that we can finally see if there was truly something there. Or do we stay in fear and let ego keep us from evolving, more or less? Because let's face it, we've all had that moment where we thought we heard something from down the hallway. We thought we saw something out of the corner of our eye. And we talked ourselves into believing, nah, there's nothing there. We're just crazy. I'm just losing it right now. It's fine. This is just part of the world that the shaman, the witch, the medicine man, the medium, the clairvoyant, that those people go after and search for those answers for. This is what we don't dismiss. Again, I said it will all circle around again and again and again into different ways of how shamanic gateways all kind of combine together. Different gateways of spirituality, spiritual essence in general, and psychic abilities. It's all part of the hidden veil and the maze within it, and coming to find the wholeness of all of it. Because we all have our activities within psychic levels of some form, whether it's within meditation, and we actually are journeying, like I said, because this happens often and people don't realize it, or it's within our dreams. We communicate with the other side so much that we don't even realize we do it sometimes, so we just ignore it and we excuse it away. And that's exactly what I want this show to be about. I want this show to be about when we start to realize these things, whether we're shamans, whether we're studying to be shamans, or we just have some of the traits that will maybe help us understand or come across them within our life so that we can move on with what it is we are truly trying to move on with. Like I said, I myself am studying to be a shaman, but we never stop studying. We never stop learning. Even if we've been given that certificate, that classification, so to speak, within our life, none of us stop learning, stop evolving. And typically, just because we hold a master in something does not make us a master of anything. It just means we've finished learning this form of this stuff. By no means does it ever mean we stop learning. And those who think they know it all are usually the ones who are going to find out they are wrong. And I can't tell you how many times I thought I figured something out, was for sure of it, and I knew it, and that was the way it was, and Spirit had to go and kick me in the butt and show me, oh, so you think you know it now. Let me just show you how wrong you are. And that is exactly what I mean. We never, never stop learning. So it comes down to one major thing. Sharing is caring. Now, typically, again, anytime any of us start to awaken, start to come into our gifts, start to notice the spiritual world around us, we start to get either full of worry because of what it is we are seeing, or we start to wonder why. Well, both of them are very big questions. We start to wonder, why is it that we're seeing it? Why is this happening to me? Some of us are very open, thankful, and grateful for the changes. And some of us are not. Some of us did not want this. Some of us did not like any of this. Some of us always had it. Some of us had it when we were young, lost it, and now we're starting to gain it again. Dreams, visions, starting to see spirit in general. All kinds of different things that also are related to shamanism, to the spiritual world in general. And sometimes when we start to come out and we admit it, and we start to come forth with the fact that this change is happening, it's not exactly always an easy thing for those who we love, our family members. Sometimes this is very difficult, not only for ourselves, but for our family, for those who we love. And when the change starts, sometimes it's a situation where there just is no turning back. Sometimes it's like we can't turn it off. We find our life and our self has changed. Our purpose and our reason for being itself has changed. Everything that we seem to have known was not possible now is. Come on, you've got to put yourself in these other people's shoes. At least for a moment, you've got to understand you have changed. And they don't understand why you have changed. And often you're going to find those don't want to know anything about why you have changed, because they don't want to hear what they still believe can't be possible is possible, because you sound crazy. And this is exactly why, for so long, through so many different cultures and history in general, different mediums, witches, and so forth, have kept this all to themselves. It's been left in secrecy. And that's also for protectional reasons, because those who do not understand, those who do not believe, become fearful. All of this weird stuff scares them. But now, in today's societies, we are starting to find more people awaken. More people are starting to wake up. And the spiritual connection is becoming stronger. Now, that does not mean that everybody now is simply going to embrace it. No, it just means it doesn't have to be quite as secretive as it always was before. But then again, we also have the other cultures who the shaman was well respected, was honored even. The shamans were looked after by their people, by the tribe, even if they were not completely understood. So I guess what I'm saying is, depending on where it is in the world, what culture it is that you're coming from, will depend on just how open it is for this kind of spiritual energy, spiritual life to be starting to come into your life. Not all cultures nor all people can accept it as easily. I'm going to quote something I read somewhere because I think it makes perfect sense, not just for the shaman, but for any of us. When we're starting to come into our gifts, when we're starting to find our way, when it is we start to learn of our own spiritual life and what it is we're supposed to be doing here. The quote goes like this: "It is easy to go down into hell, night and day. The gates of dark death stand wide. But to climb back again, to retrace one's steps to the upper air, there is the rub, the task." You see, because when we're starting to work with our own spiritual life, our own spiritual essence, our mistakes, our love, our understanding, our ego, our denial, all of that, that's difficult. And spirituality will put you through the ringer. Shoot, spirit itself will put you through the ringer. It will make you question things because you are digging for the truth. You're digging for the truth within you that you already know, but you forgot, that you lost somehow. You see, it's never just about a spell. It's never just about a spiritual essence. It's never just about a ghost. It's never just one thing. It always branches out into a bigger situation of wholeness in one form or another. That is the synchronicity and the connection of all. And that's not easy. You see, all of us different forms of mystic people, so to speak, we go through the ringer in our own way, being the ghost talker, the oracle, the bridge between the worlds, the witchy, the medicine man, the shaman, and the medium. Man, we all get pointed at for this stuff. The difference typically between the shaman and all of the others is shamanism chooses them. It usually is not that we choose to be the shaman, but shaman within chooses us. It's a deeper calling, I guess, in a way. It's not something that you can walk away from as easily. However, personally, it is my belief that when someone starts to find their path, what it is that they're here for, their purpose, it is something that they can't walk away from anyway. I often tell people, well, what is it that you would do, even if you weren't getting paid for it? What is it that you couldn't help but to continue to do? Because that is where your path lies. And that is where you will find your purpose. However, for shaman, it's not usually a yearning of what it is they want. It's more of, we're not going to get left alone until we follow what it is we're supposed to be doing. Spirit will push us to make us do what it is we are supposed to be doing. That is the difference typically when it comes into shamanism. Shamanism is also a form of spirit teaching us how to be humble. Now, that's not always what people want to get into in life, that whole soulful healing of yourself. But I was reading an article somewhere, and it was about 5 reasons why becoming a shaman can suck. And while I love what it is I'm becoming, what I'm working for, I understand these 5 reasons. But I also understand them to not only be for shamanism. And that's why I bring it up here today. Because, like I said, sharing is caring. Because I see this to be a fact for many people, not just shamans. Many people who are awakening, who are coming into their gifts, who are starting to find this change within their life. Because I've seen these 5 reasons happen to be true, happen to actually take place in many of these people's lives as they're starting to undergo this change. And this is why I want to bring it up today. Because, like I said, we all have shamanic gateways. We all are part of this wholeness in different ways. Our connections may be on different levels, or our strengths maybe in different levels, but we still connect, even if we're not full-blown going to go after shamanism. You see, because as we change, as we become out of the closet, so to speak, the truth can hurt, and cosmic truth can hurt the most because we are learning deep soul lessons. But it is honestly usually considered the pain of the shaman. And the reason that it is this is because the shaman is usually open about what it is their path is. And until today in this world, this time in this world, it hasn't been such an open subject for people to be so open with their spiritualness, with their psychic abilities, with their awokenness, and the change that all of this brings. But again, this is the first time in the world that so many people have been awake at one time. And therefore, that's why this change is happening on such a much larger level. So it is not only the pain of the shaman, or at least not anymore. And the first one of the five I already was discussing, that you will be shunned by family members and friends. And this typically is because people don't understand the change or they don't want to, as well as fear of it. Because again, like I said, sometimes as we first start to stumble into what it is our path is, our destiny is, our purpose is, as we start to awaken, sometimes it feels a bit like an unlucky break because we don't exactly know or understand why the change has started and it is happening. How to stop it, if we want to stop it, or if we have a choice of stopping it. Some people are simply uncomfortable with change in general. So starting to come into the fact of feeling and sensing spirit or energy is just more than they ever wanted to deal with. It can bring anxiety because it's like you can't stop and you don't know why. And this is something that those are not awake are simply not going to understand. They're never going to get it. And the shunning by others can feel like a double-edged sword. You'll be called crazy, insane, ignorant, conceited, and even selfish. While oddly, they don't understand what it is that they are calling you or picking you apart for. And once you've found that you have a connection with spirit, you will view things differently yourself. You will view truths within yourself as well as how it is you are treated by others. You will see through the fake and start to feel the truth naturally within you. And this is because you are starting to rediscover your roots through your own soulful self-interrogations. And you will often start to notice that those who are unawakened may also sense you to be dangerous. This is because that wild spirit from within is being found, your untamable force. However, this is a necessary change that you are going through because you are starting to learn. You do not have to follow after what it is society has taught you. And the next is a very difficult one for us because we're starting to learn of deeper levels of the pain of love. And this is because, in truth, we are opening up to love in a new way. Yet the world around us has been victimized in such terrible ways. And this is because so many people live in fear because, in truth, they do not understand fear. They quite simply are unaware that they live with fear ruling them. They are completely oblivious to the fact that this is so. And you see, fear is ego's dirty little secret. And this is because ego can play two sides. It's not always a positive ego or a negative ego. Ego has a way of putting us in check. It's a very sneaky little thing. It can work to the positive or to the negative. And this is exactly how it sneaks up on us and keeps us in fear without us even knowing or realizing we are living in fear. So let me step back for a moment and help you to understand what it is I'm talking about. When any of us awaken, start to actually come into our spiritualness, our spiritual learning, that deepening of soulfulness, we start to come into that empathic nature, the whole sensitivity of the empath. Now, the empath is all about empathy. Anybody can be sensitive to someone else's feelings or a situation going on in their life. But to have empathy means you actually feel what it is that is going on with them. And as we all start to awaken, we start to find that we all have parts of this empath gift. This helps us to truly understand there really is oneness. There really is wholeness. I mean, let's face it, how else can I tell how it is that you are feeling? There's a difference between being sympathetic and actually feeling it. And as we deepen ourselves in the emotions of the empath, we start to come into a deeper level of what love truly is, of acceptance, of forgiveness. We start finding ourselves connecting on a deeper, more soulful level with other people. Again, this is part of why I want to make this show. It's not only about shamanism or the shaman way of life, but gateways that we all have, that we all come in contact with, that we all are learning of soulfulness, oneness, spirituality, and gifts it is that we do actually all possess. The empath is an awesome gift once you start to understand it, as well as there are many different levels of what the empath gift are. But the bottom line, no matter how you want to spin it, the empath still, at the end of the day, the bottom line comes down to it's a gift of healing. Although learning how to use it to do so is a whole different situation. Because the greater the empath, the stronger the empath within you, we often find the less you there is and the more of them that is within you. Other people, places, even things, all store energy, which also means it stores emotions. And let's face it, people often don't understand their emotions going on within their own self. Now, an empath is picking up their own emotions as well as other people's. Some of us even pick up other people's illnesses. This can become very confusing for anyone, identifying what it is that is you and what it is that is not. It's easy to become confused as to who it is you are, what it is that is your identity. And then when we take the fact that an empath is picking up other people who may also be an empath, picking up other people and their emotions and their life and the outward part of everybody's life mixed together, we are picking up emotions from everywhere. Everybody's fears, everybody's worries, everybody's stress, as well as their joys, their laughter, their love. Like I said, this is not only overwhelming, but it starts to make you question your own identity. But when we learn how to identify that, we then can start to identify what it is we are feeling off of others, to sort through it and become intimate with what it is that we are sorting through. And as we learn to love on a deeper level, a more soulful level, a more true, honest, and pure level, we start to find ourselves stronger within ourselves. Again, this is when we start to find the warrior from within. That warrior that will not be shaken by fear. But ego will tempt you, as well as so many other negativities in this world. But that is its job. I was reading in one of my shaman books once through one of the classes that I'm taking, and in truth, it makes perfect sense. Negativity and darkness has one job to do: to keep you right where you are at, to make you believe you should stay right where you're at, that you should be comfortable right where you're at, to keep you in what it is we call the little life, to stop you from believing you can achieve the big life, you can achieve the goals that you wish to set out for, to keep you thinking that the little life is just fine and that there is no need to look or question any further. This is one of negativity's jobs, and in truth, that is a fear coming from ego. But ego will keep you in check. However, it is up to you to start to realize which side of the game ego is playing. For everything has two sides, or 2 points of view. And as we learn how to deal with all of this, we also find love is equally painful, as it is that we learn to become more aware of the entirety of what love truly is. Now, I'll do another show in the future on empaths, but I need to get on with number 3. And number 3 is we will all experience loneliness. For some of us, soul crushing loneliness. See, now I feel that it is important to go over all of these, not because they suck or I'm trying to say something negative about coming into your gifts and enlightenment or awakening in general, but because also reminds us all that as we are doing it, we all equally are coming into these very things. This is not only a trait that shamans go through, but any of us, when we are awakening, we come into starting to find our enlightenment. We are soul searching. We are going to all come into these situations. And that is exactly why I'm calling the show Shamanic Gateways, because we all have gateways into our spirituality, whether we're shamans or not, of equal related fashion. This isn't just something only the shaman suffers alone through anymore. We all experience loneliness as we learn through our awakening. I'm going to read something that was said by Remy that might help you to understand where I'm going with this. Wherever you stand, be the soul of that place. Seek the center of your own loneliness and then transform it into interdependence. Loneliness is nothing more than the shadow of our own self. Dance with it in the abyss. Come to know it and understand its reasons why. And within that, you will start to find you will never be alone again. This is all about shedding of our ego. And shedding of ego is a never ending task. Because, like I said before, our ego is a tricky, tricky little sucker. And it knows us in and out. It knows exactly what lies to tell ourselves to keep ourselves down. And the more we lose ego, the more we also lose identity. That identity that makes us believe that we are not one with wholeness, that we are not one with oneness. We are somehow separated. I say all the time, no matter who it is that I'm talking to, whenever we are working on our own personal soul work, that is never easy work. And as we learn how to shed ego, we do become closer into the understanding of that wholeness and oneness. But that traveling inward is not easy, nor is it easy on those who know you in your life, your family, your friends. Again, they don't understand. They don't know why you are pursuing this, why it is that you are changing the way you are. as well as the stronger we become in ego death, the harder it may be to communicate with some people on a spiritual or a soulful level, because you may have come to a spiritual plane that they simply cannot understand. And this can be incredibly hard on relationships for yourself as well as the person you're in the relationship with, peers and or family members as well. I tell people all the time when I am talking to someone who is not awake, who has not come into their gifts at all, or even believe in them, those who have not found their path, their calling. I remind people all the time when they are dealing with people that are like this. You kind of have to dumb it back down. Not dumb yourself down. Dumb the way you talk down. The communicational skill here. If we are starting to learn of our own enlightenment, if we are awake, if we have learned some lessons, and we know we are talking to those, dealing with those, having a conversation with those who are not on that same spiritual level. If you ever want them to understand what it is you're talking about, you have to kind of dumb it down. You have to speak to them in a way that they can understand what it is you're talking about. Because let's face it, if you've been taught something, if you've been enlightened in some way and awakened, then you know something that they don't. You've been taught something, shown something that is a great gift to be able to share and help people with. However, if you want to help them, teach them, work with them, and have them understand you, you have to dumb it down to a language that they can understand. That's all I mean here. By no means do I mean to make yourself ignorant, to lessen your beliefs, your learning, and knowledge, but to remember you have to be open-minded. And if you're going to be open-minded, that means to also remember there are those who are not. So if you're ever going to be able to communicate with them on that level, you have to kind of dumb it down. However, that still does not mean that they will ever understand you, or that they want to or are willing to try to. So therefore, you will lose friends, peers, and maybe even family members. This part of ego death very much feels like a double-edged sword. It is one of those areas where you truly have to take the sweet with the sour. And with practice, this does become easier and less painful. However, it still never ends. Archangel Raphael explained to me one time, it's not that we take the sweet with the sour, but that they two are one. And this does take time to learn over and over and over and over again. Because all of this does cause great pain, pain of loneliness. We often find ourselves having trouble finding people who we can communicate with, who are on the same level and understand what it is we are trying to talk about, where we can actually hold a conversation seriously and know that we are being taken seriously. And because of that, we spend a lot of time alone, then more or less forcing us to turn inwardly and have these conversations with our ego. And this, my dear, is exactly what I was speaking of when I was saying earlier in the show. The shaman battles their inner sage, cleansing to the truth, to the root of the truth of soul. However, it is not only shamans who do this. We find this happening on many levels with any of us who have been awakened. And again, this is exactly why I do things like this show, because I want people to know you are not alone. Number 4 is equally as confusing. However, This may be more for those who are actually dealing with spirit, whom actually are doing work within the different spiritual realms. The clairvoyant, the mediums, psychics, witches, medicine man, and obviously shaman. It's kind of like it is said in the movie The Matrix, to see how deep the rabbit hole goes. Because that is exactly what is happening. You're seeing just how deep the rabbit hole goes with number 4. Because you will find yourself being destroyed over and over again between the different worlds and realms. However, it is for a good reason. But that doesn't make it less hard. I say all the time, over and over and over again. Just because we've learned something doesn't mean we know anything. I don't know how many times I was taught a lesson or I figured something out on a spiritual level, a spiritual plane or realm. I learned something and figured because it had been the same again and again that I got it, that I figured it out. And maybe, yes, for that moment, I did. But I was quickly put back in my place by spirit over and over again. More or less, I received, oh, so you think you know it now. So let me just show you how wrong you truly are by opening up another part of what would be considered the rabbit hole, reminding me and showing me just how much I don't know and how small I am within the idea of the whole universe. Meaning, yes, you might know something, but there's a whole lot more that you don't know, fool. I've gotten it a million times. So I know I've made some of these mistakes. And this is because we have to learn what the cycles truly are. While at the same time, we will never stop learning, period. We will never stop having ego death. The shedding of ego will constantly be with us. The more we learn, the more we shed, but also the more rebirth we learn to give ourselves. Because we are learning to find the divine in ourselves and in all things. But we have to learn to shed our dead, to let go of what it is that we once knew. We simply learn that the more times our soul is forced to eat itself, to find peace within humility, the more rebirth will happen. As we do this, we start to become more hollow, allowing ourselves to understand truthfully what all it is we are feeling with a higher knowledge of healing, and of healing in a soulful way. However, again, the learning never, never, never ends. And lastly, one that is extremely hard. Hard to learn, hard to maintain, hard to remember, and hard to own. Because accomplishing this in a healthy fashion is difficult in itself. Soul break and a healthy detachment. This is being able to detach at the moment. For true detachment, mind, body, spirit becomes a mighty tool for clear seeing, being able to act with compassion but without attachment. Now, almost everything in this world, including love, is conditional, has conditions. And we are talking about moving into a place where we find unconditional love. And this is highly being self-disciplined. That, let's face it, none of us are extremely great at. We all wish to be a better person than we were the day before. We all want to be the best person we can be. But when it comes to sacrifice, that's when we tend to break. That's where we tend to fall out. We fall short. We're not good at it. Unconditional love is no easy task. I mean true, real, unconditional love. Not just saying the words, actually following through with it. Being compassionate, yet unattached are not easy to put together. This takes extreme courage and one's self's willingness to transcend above the darkness that is within us. This is about letting go of petty pursuits, striving to be better than others and other egotistic ideals, letting them go for they are nothing more than shallow, and becoming the change that it is you want to see within the world. But that's it. That's all I got for you today. My hour is up. So thanks for hanging out with me this evening, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And again, this is Shamanic Gateways, reminding you we all are one, even if we are traveling different gateways of finding that out. I am Lady Stars and Fire. From now until then, take care of you and use you wisely. Hugs and kisses in the wind.